Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be exploring a prompting technique. It's called Directional Stimulus Prompting. You might know it as DSP.
Yeah, DSP.
It's relatively new in natural language processing, and we're seeing some really promising results, especially for text summarization. We're going to look at two different approaches to DSP and how they can be used with tools that I'm sure you're familiar with, things like ChatGPT and LangChain.
Yeah, so at its core, DSP is a way to guide LLMs towards better outputs, more accurate and focused.
So it's like we're giving the model a nudge in the right direction.
Exactly.
So simple concept, but I imagine the implications are huge, especially when you're trying to summarize really long documents or when you're trying to extract key insights from tons of data.
Yeah, for sure. And what makes DSP so powerful is that it gives you different ways to get to those results. You can use hints, which basically give the LLM extra context about what kind of output we want, or you can use keywords to highlight the points that should be in the summary.
Got it. So it's not just a one-size-fits-all approach, which I guess means it's more versatile. You can really adapt it to different situations. Let's start by looking at an example that uses the hints approach with ChatGPT. There's a video tutorial we found that demonstrates this technique. They use it to summarize an article about a really rare baseball card.
This card, it's a Christy Mathewson error card from the T205 set. It's interesting. The error is a misprint of Mathewson's win-loss record. It shows 37 wins and 1 loss instead of his actual record of 37 wins and 11 losses. It seems like a small detail, but it makes a big difference in how much the card is worth.
Oh, well. Yeah. In the video, the prompter starts by telling ChatGPT exactly what they want. So they ask for a short summary of the article, maybe 3 to 5 sentences. Then they add the hint, the error card is much more valuable and has a different back.
Right. That gives ChatGPT some context to focus on the important stuff, the card's rarity and value.
And it works.
Oh, yeah. ChatGPT nails the summary. It highlights how much the error card is worth and even mentions the unique back. It has a Cycle brand cigarettes back. That's different from the regular Mathewson cards.
Okay, I'm starting to see how a well-placed hint can make a big difference.
Huge difference.
So we've looked at hints with ChatGPT. What about LangChain? I know that's a popular tool for working with LLMs.
For sure.
How would we use the keyword approach with LangChain?
Okay, so for this, we can look at a practical example. It uses a one-shot prompting technique. I know some of our listeners might be into the coding side of things, so we'll walk through it step by step. This example, by the way, it comes from a research paper on DSP, and it's about summarizing an article on the resignation of a South Korean prime minister.
Sounds complex. What are the keywords in this case?
The keywords they use are resignation, tycoon, investigation, and fraud. These keywords help the LLM focus on the key parts of the story.
Okay, so how do we start with LangChain?
So the first thing is setting up the environment and getting the right libraries, like LangChain, OpenAI, and anything else you might need for the specific task.
Right, and of course we need an OpenAI API key, right?
Absolutely. The video tutorial that we mentioned earlier has clear steps on how to get that set up.
Perfect. Once we have the environment ready, what's next?
Then we need to create a prompt template in LangChain. This template sets up the structure and tells the LLM what to expect in terms of input.
Input variables.
Right. In this case, we have article, keywords, and summary. These represent the information we're going to feed to the LLM.
Okay. So the prompt template is like instructions for the LLM.
Yeah, exactly. It starts with article, followed by the text of the article we're summarizing. Then there's this instruction. Write a short summary of the article in 2 to 4 sentences that accurately incorporates the provided keywords. Then we have keywords, followed by the list of keywords. And finally, summary, which is where the LLM will put its output.
So that's the structure. But we're using one-shot prompting, right? So we need to give the LLM an example first.
Exactly. In this case, we're using the example from that research paper. It includes the article about the prime minister, the keywords, and a well-written summary that includes those keywords. So we feed this whole example into our prompt template, along with the new article we want to summarize and our own set of keywords.
And then we basically just hit go.
Pretty much. We invoke the LLM. It takes all that information and generates a summary that meets our specific requirements.
And the summary in this case is good.
It's spot on. Captures all the main points, uses all the keywords, and stays within that 2 to 4 sentence limit.
That's impressive. So DSP with LangChain really allows for that level of precision.
Absolutely. And the great thing is, it's not just limited to one-shot prompting.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more about that.
Well, you can also use DSP with zero-shot and few-shot prompting techniques.
So even more flexible. So if I'm working on something really complex or I need a very specific output, few-shot prompting with more examples might be better.
That's a good way to think about it. And if you don't have any examples ready or you need a quick solution, zero-shot prompting with DSP can still give you good results.
Wow, so many options.
Yeah.
This DSP is sounding more and more interesting. It seems like it can be combined with other prompting techniques as well.
That's right. Combining it with other techniques can really open up a lot of possibilities. Like, think about combining DSP with retrieval augmented generation, or RG.
Okay, RG. Break that one down for me. What is that?
Imagine you're working with a huge database full of information, like research papers or technical documents.
I can see where this is going.
RG lets you pull relevant information from that database and give it to the LLM as context.
So you're not just relying on what the LLM already knows, you're giving it extra information.
Exactly. And that's where DSP comes in. By using hints or keywords, you can tell the LLM what parts of that extra information are important. That makes sure the output is accurate and focused on what you need.
It's like giving the LLM a laser focus so it can pull out those golden nuggets of information. Is there anything else we can combine this with?
Well, we could also combine it with chain of thought prompting.
Chain of thought, another one. I'm learning so much today. What's that all about?
Chain of thought prompting basically encourages the LLM to break a complex task down into smaller steps. This forces it to think through the problem more carefully, and it leads to more logical and insightful outputs.
I see. So it's not just jumping to an answer, it's being guided through a thought process. And by using DSP alongside that, you're influencing those thought steps to make sure the LLM stays on track.
That's a great way to put it. It's like you're giving it a roadmap, and it's preventing it from going off on tangents.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered hints, keywords, RAG, and chain of thought prompting. My head is spinning.
I know, right? It's a lot, but it's all super interesting stuff.
It is. So to recap, we've talked about the two main approaches to DSP, using hints and keywords. We've seen how to use these with ChatGPT and LangChain, and we've even touched on how DSP can be combined with other powerful techniques like RVers and chain of thought prompting.
And it's important to remember that there's no one right way to do this. The best approach depends on what you're trying to do and what kind of output you need.
Right. No one-size-fits-all in the world of prompting. It's all about figuring out which technique works best for your specific goals.
Exactly. So now I'm curious, what do you think our listeners can do with DSP? How can they use this in their own work?
That's a great question. Something to think about for sure.
Yeah. And I think that's a good place to wrap up this part of our deep dive. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll delve into some practical applications of DSP and how our listeners can leverage this exciting technology in their own endeavors.
Sounds good. We'll be back in a few minutes.
So where were we? Oh yeah, thinking about how our listeners can use DSP.
Right, practical applications. Let's brainstorm some ideas.
Okay, so first, imagine someone who has to read tons of research papers or long reports for their work.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. I feel like I'm always drowning in research papers.
Me too. And DSP could be a lifesaver for situations like that. It can help summarize key findings and pull out the most important info. Like, think about condensing a 50-page report into a few key sentences. That would save so much time.
Oh, absolutely. What about for people who aren't necessarily dealing with massive amounts of text? Can DSP still be helpful for them?
Definitely. Think about content creators, people who are constantly writing or coming up with new ideas. DSP could be their secret weapon for beating writer's block and sparking those creative juices.
That's a good point. So even if you're not a data scientist or a researcher, DSP can still have a place in your workflow. It's all about finding the right application for your needs.
Exactly. And the barrier to entry isn't that high either. You don't need to be a coding expert to start experimenting with DSP. Tools like ChatGPT make it pretty accessible.
And we've got those links to the tutorial and the research paper in the show notes, so our listeners can dive right in and see what they can do with DSP.
For sure. Experimentation is key.
Okay, so we've covered some really interesting use cases. But before we wrap things up, I think it's important to talk about the responsible use of AI. These language models are incredibly powerful.
Yeah, definitely. It's not something to take lightly.
We need to be mindful of the potential impact of this technology and use it in a way that benefits everyone.
Absolutely. Ethical considerations are always important when we're talking about AI. We have a responsibility to make sure these tools are used for good, that they're used to create a better future for all of us.
I completely agree. It's an exciting time to be working with LLMs, but we need to proceed with caution and a strong sense of responsibility.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So as we wrap up this segment, I just want to encourage our listeners to keep exploring this fascinating field. There's so much to learn and discover about LLMs and prompting techniques like DSP. We've only just scratched the surface of what's possible.
And who knows what amazing things we'll be able to achieve with these technologies in the future. It's all about staying curious and pushing the boundaries of what we can do with AI.
It really is an exciting time to be working with large language models. The progress in this field is just remarkable, and prompting techniques like DSP are really key to unlocking the power of these models.
It's mind-blowing when you think about it. It's like we're on the verge of a whole new era of human-computer interaction. As these models get even more sophisticated, we need to be able to communicate with them effectively, to really guide their outputs.
Absolutely. And as we keep exploring the capabilities of LLMs and develop even better prompting techniques, we have to remember the importance of responsible AI development. You know what I mean? We have to make sure these technologies are used ethically and for the benefit of everyone.
Yeah, it's a huge responsibility. We've only scratched the surface of what's possible with DSP and other prompting techniques. It feels like every day there's something new and groundbreaking happening in natural language processing.
It's true, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. We encourage everyone listening to check out the resources in the show notes, the tutorial, the research paper. There's so much to learn and explore. Whether you're a researcher or just curious about AI, there's something there for everyone.
That's a great point. There's something for everyone in this field. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. From hints and keywords to RAG and chain of thought prompting, it's been a fascinating deep dive into the world of directional stimulus prompting.
It has. And we hope our listeners have gained valuable insights and a new appreciation for this incredible technology.
Absolutely. So until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI. Thanks for joining us.